So welcome everybody to our webinar on marketing in a post-coronavirus world. So my name is Jason McDonald and I'm going to walk you through a presentation, and I also want to alert you that I have a list of resources and we're going to be giving away our marketing book for free during the pandemic, so you'll have some fun reading to help yourself get prepared. So at any rate, this is kind of a rough presentation, so bear with me. I'm going to do my best, and I'm going to share some of my brainstorm ideas about kind of how to think about marketing as we move through the phases of this pandemic. So let's get started. So welcome back. So this is marketing post-coronavirus, and if you're watching this in video, feel free to put the comments on the YouTube channel and I will try to get back to them. And it's very much a brainstorming session about survival in a post-corona world when it comes to marketing. So kind of first up, what I'm focusing on is the marketing aspect of the coronavirus. I'm obviously not talking about the pandemic or the health issues. I'm going to drill down into what I know best, which is marketing and the spread of ideas and how we as marketers can prepare our businesses for this new world order. Now, as we get started, obviously, sort of what Susie Orman says, people first, then money, then things. So you've got to think about your own health, your family's health, your coworkers' health, what you can do, social distancing, things that you can do. Don't buy that last roll of toilet paper, things that you can do to help your community, your society do better as we move through the pandemic. But again, we're going to be focusing on the business and marketing aspects of it, not on the epidemiology. So one thing I want to do is recommend a really kind of a classic book that I go back to all the time, and it's by Seth Godin, who's just a really awesome marketer, and it's called Unleashing the Idea Virus. And I want to kind of make the point that, in my opinion, the coronavirus is an idea virus because ideas are spreading through our society. And what are some of those ideas that we're seeing? Those can be things like, don't fly in airplanes, don't get on a cruise ship, drive to your local grocery store and buy all the toilet paper, self-isolation, social distancing. You can see ideas going through the society, and they're all kind of interrelated with the pandemic. Now, we as marketers, we deal in ideas. Brands are ideas. We build or try to build idea viruses for our own products and services on a good day. But what can we as marketers do when it comes to coronavirus? Now, what's the first idea that we're seeing spread like wildfire throughout the world, right? Is the collapse in demand, right? People can't go out to restaurants. They're quote unquote working from home. They're dramatically slamming on their ad spends. So we're seeing just an aggregate collapse of demand. But here's where I think it gets interesting, because hold on a second. The demand for toilet paper is radically increasing. The demand for bread is radically increasing. The demand for masks is radically increasing. The demand for ICUs and ICU doctors is increasing. So even though on the aggregate there's a collapse of demand, in certain niches there's a radical increase in demand. And I think that's the first little germ of insights for you as a marketer on what to think about and how to think about the coronavirus going forward. So now what I did is sort of cast about for a model, like how can we think about coronavirus? And to be honest, there weren't a lot of models, or a lot of good models. So I ended up with sort of what's called the Kubler-Ross grief cycle. I didn't even know the name of it. I just knew like the phases of grief, right? So the first one is shock, right? Paralysis, right? We saw that, right? Denial, number 2, right? We saw a lot of denial that this wasn't going to be a problem. A lot of just like inability to process. And I think we're all still struggling to process what this means. Anger, right? We're seeing the blame game get started. on the international phase, right? So we're seeing those first three phases. Now, we as marketers, because we deal in ideas, I think we can look forward to the next phases and anticipate, stage 4, seeking for a way out, hopefully not in vain, but starting to think of solutions at a societal level and at a business level. I think the realization of the inevitable, that the world has changed, I think that's coming out there, and that's going to be tough. And I think number 6, testing, looking for realistic solutions to your business, to your marketing. And then I think acceptance, right? Realizing that the world has changed, it's going to be painful. So I think this is a useful model for how the pandemic is moving through the society at the idea level. And I think it also helps us with some drill downs for our own businesses, right? For our own businesses. Now, the next slide here is sort of like the crux of it, right? The future, right? So it's hard to predict the future, right? It's hard to predict the future. I actually had a professor at Berkeley who always used to say, predict the past. It's much easier, right? So the point here is we need to think about the future. And I have a quote here. I don't know who said this. I love this quote. If you know the person, put it in the chat. So I spend a lot of time thinking about the future because that's where I'm going to spend the rest of my life. Right? So we're going to live in this post-coronavirus world, and we need to start thinking about what that's going to look like for our company, our products and services, our business, our marketing. So we all need to become futurists. Now, what's our first question? What's our first sort of takeaway? What's our first okay, let's drill into marketing here. So we see some industries, cruise ships, right? Total collapse of demand. We see some industries like ICU workers and mass and healthcare, radical increase. So this is what I call the coronavirus continuum of demand. And you want to ask yourself, where are you, right? So bars and restaurants are seeing a dramatic constriction in demand, but there's still demand for takeout. Concerts are seeing a collapse of demand, but some people like John Legend are giving virtual concerts, right? You can get liquor delivered in the state of Texas, right? Go Texas. That's part of the crisis response. So there are certain things like home delivery of liquor in Texas that are not completely collapsed, right? And then there are things like masks and ICUs and toilet paper and bread that are seeing dramatic increases, hand sanitizer, right? Dramatic increases. So you want to start to think about where you are. So the first question is sort of where are you as a business? Where is your product or service on the coronavirus continuum? That's question number 1. Where are you on that continuum? And that's going to differ for different businesses. It's going to differ for different product groupings within a business. It's going to vary. So you want to start thinking about that in a more detailed, nuanced way. Now, the next thing to think about is this big question of extinction, right? So what do we mean? If you were a dinosaur 66 million years ago and you looked up into the sky, right, and saw the asteroid, it didn't matter how wonderful your business continuity plan was, right? You were dinosaur toast. But if you were a little mammal, and fun fact, right, the mammals actually existed at the same time as the dinosaurs, despite what people think, right? There were little mammals that are just as old as the dinosaurs. For them, the dinosaur extinction was a huge opportunity. So we're obviously at the big cataclysmic event right now. It's very uncomfortable. We're all struggling, but that's going to pass. The earth will cool down, and we want to start thinking about the post-extinction or post-cataclysm world. So my next slide is sort of question number 2. Are you a business that's extinct forever? I think some of the wet markets in Asia maybe are going to be shut down or radically transformed. Or are you maybe like a dentist where people aren't going to the dentist, but let's be honest, dentistry will survive. There will be dentists and dentistry post-corona. So you're just in hibernation. People are canceling everything. It's not going to happen, etc. Or are you in an industry like maybe online learning that's going to increase, and that increase may last post-corona. So you want to start to look at your products and your services as to where you are extinction forever, hibernation, or radical increase, and that's going to impact what your marketing is. If it's extinction forever, just forget it. Just cancel everything and go home. If it's hibernation, you're going to put everything on pause and maybe worry about your infrastructure, but you're not going to spend a lot, at least in the short term. And if you think that your business is going to increase, if your Zoom video, that's going to increase, then you might actually increase your marketing. So that's question number 2. Now, the next thing to start thinking about is what we call the known knowns, the known unknowns, and the unknown unknowns. So your KKs, your KUs, and your UUs. And this comes from a famous quote by philosopher King Donald Rumsfeld, who I believe was Secretary of Defense in the Reagan administration, I believe. Don't quote me. And he said, "There are known knowns. There are things we know we know. We also know there are known unknowns. That is to say, we know there are some things we do not know. But there are also unknown unknowns, and these are the ones we don't know we don't know." Now, so what do I mean here? Your known, take a restaurant. Your known is that restaurants are pretty much shut down right now, except for takeout. That's a KK. It's a known. What's your known unknown? Well, we know that restaurants will reopen at some future date, but we do not know the date at which they will be reopened. That's a KU. And then we have our unknown unknowns, and this is where you really have to put your thinking cap on as to how you imagine what the new world could look like. So for instance, a restaurant might imagine that in the new world they require 6 feet between tables, which is dramatically going to constrain your ability to cram those people in. That would be an unknown. You don't know exactly, maybe something else will happen. So you want to look at your business, your products, your services, take out a blank piece of paper, write KK, write out your known knowns, right? No one is coming to the dentist today. That's a known. Write your known unknown. When people come back to the dentist, will they want, face masks or something like that? And then your unknown is, is there some weird change that's going to happen to dentistry because of COVID-19? So that's a question number 3, is your KKs, your KUs, and your UUs. The next thing is, let's talk about customers. And we're marketers, so we care about customers. And this woman here who's out shopping and spending like she doesn't have a care in the world, she's an endangered species right now, isn't she? But we want to start thinking about what can we do with our customers in the short term and in the long term. So in the short term, I would say question number 4, are you staying close to your customers? You might not be selling to them, but are you learning from them? Are you staying engaged with them? Are you staying involved with them? We want to understand that. Now, this has 2 breakdown questions. One piece of this is monitoring. You can use Facebook searches. You can use Twitter hashtags. You can use Google searches. And I have links in the documentation on how to do some of these searches so that you can look at coronavirus restaurants and see what is the news, what is the conversation about that topic that's important for your industry. So you can monitor what your customers are saying in real time and start to plan for potential changes in demand. So that's the first part of staying close to customers, is monitoring. The second part is outreach. You can have a Twitter chat. You can respond to comments on your Facebook page. You can email your customers a survey. You can try to figure out what are they talking about, thinking, how are they feeling, by proactively reaching out to them. And you could also think about ways to stay top of mind. Maybe you're an online learning company and you can post games and activities for kids when they're being homeschooled, so you can stay top of mind and stay engaged with those customers, so that after the coronavirus kind of calms down, they still know who you are. They haven't forgotten. Let's say you're a restaurant, you can use YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, and stay engaged with those customers by reaching out to them so that when demand returns, they haven't forgotten you. Next, I want to talk a little bit about infrastructure, right? We're seeing some real serious problems with infrastructure, aren't we? We're all sort of realizing that our healthcare infrastructure is kind of maybe sort of not up to the task, that we're really scrambling for those mass and ICU beds and ICU physicians and all those people, bless their hearts, who are out there working hard in healthcare, but we didn't invest enough in our infrastructure before the crisis. Well, the same goes for marketers. We need to think about our infrastructure. So we need to start to look at our infrastructure and think, what's our infrastructure for the new normal? So for instance, take that restaurant example. If the shift is to online, then the shift may be you need a lot of boxes and forks and knives and napkins, and you need to have a much faster way to get your food to your customers so it tastes good, right? You may really rely on your website for online orders in a way that you didn't when you had in-person ordering. So you want to look at your infrastructure, and we're marketers. So look at our marketing infrastructure and start to audit. Is it up to the task for the new normal? Where is it going to be now and in the near future with respect to the demands that are placed on it? So we want to look at those infrastructure components. Now, as we drill into that and we return to sort of the basics of marketing, we want to realize that we've got to get some foundational things in order. So, it's funny, as you get older, you realize, there's times in life when you have a lot of money, and there's times of life when you don't have any money, but you have a lot of time, right? So, in general, right, young people, they have a lot of time, but they don't have a lot of money. Older people often have more money than time, right? Now, so we're all experiencing this crash in demand for our products and services, or most of us are experiencing that crash. But we want to start thinking about the future and think of those foundational skills for the new normal. So what do we mean here? We kind of get into what I call lifelong learning and infrastructure. This is a great time to rebuild your website. This is a fantastic time to do an SEO audit of your company and your business. This is a great time to audit your social media infrastructure. This is a wonderful time to look at your advertising long term and set it up in the right way. So you want to start to look at your infrastructure, and of course I'm a digital marketer, so your SEO, your online ads, your social media channels, and figure out, are they up to the task for a new environment? And because my guess is you probably have more time than money right now, it's a good time to invest in your company's infrastructure. Now, turning to our final sort of question issue, it's also a great time for you as a person to be a lifelong learner. So question number 7 is, are you a lifelong learner? Are you an expert in SEO? Are you an expert in social media? Are you an expert in online ads? Well, there's a lot of resources. I have them in the companion links where you can go and learn and increase your human capital. And you could increase the human capital of your team as well. So you want to look at your lifelong learning capabilities and get those kind of down and out and ready. So those are some thoughts there about it. So I've got 7 questions for you on marketing in a post-corona environment, and I hope you've enjoyed it. I've got a link there on the screen to the free resources, and then I'm going to beef this up over the next few weeks. We're also going to be giving away our marketing book, which is a foundational basics book about how to market. And put any questions in the chat below. I'm really interested in how this shakes out. I've got my thinking cap on when I'm not running around, screaming with my hair on fire, trying to get everything organized. And I just really want to emphasize, think about the future, because you're going to live your whole life in it, and start to scenario plan what that future is going to be.